Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the English Podcast channel. I'm Emma.
And I'm Mike. Today we have a fun and incredibly useful topic for all our listeners who want to elevate their English skills: phrasal verbs.
Phrasal verbs are a crucial part of everyday English. They consist of a verb combined with a preposition or adverb, creating a new meaning.
We'll explore various phrasal verbs, their meanings, and how to use them in sentences. Plus, we have some interactive segments and stories to help you understand them better. Let's get started. Segment 1, Introduction to Phrasal Verbs.
Let's start with the basics. Mike, can you explain what phrasal verbs are?
Sure, Emma. Phrasal verbs are phrases that consist of a verb and a preposition or adverb. When combined, they create a meaning different from the original verb. For example, give up means to quit, which is different from the verb give.
That's right. Phrasal verbs can be tricky because their meanings aren't always obvious, but they are essential for sounding natural in English.
Exactly. They are commonly used in both spoken and written English. Understanding and using phrasal verbs can significantly improve your fluency.
Let's go over a few common phrasal verbs to get started. How about look after?
Look after means to take care of someone or something. For example, I look after my younger brother when my parents are busy.
Great example, Mike. Another one is break down. It means to stop functioning, like a machine or vehicle. For instance, my car broke down on the way to work.
Perfect. And how about run into? It means to meet someone unexpectedly. For example, I ran into an old friend at the supermarket.
These are just a few examples. There are hundreds of phrasal verbs, each with its unique meaning. We'll explore many more throughout this episode.
Segment 2, Separable and Inseparable Phrasal Verbs.
Now that we understand what phrasal verbs are, let's talk about separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Mike, can you explain the difference?
Sure, Emma. Separable phrasal verbs are those where the verb and the particle can be separated by an object. For example, turn off. You can say turn off the lights or turn the lights off.
That's right. Inseparable phrasal verbs, on the other hand, cannot be separated. For example, look after. You can't say, look the kids after. It has to be, look after the kids.
Understanding whether a phrasal verb is separable or inseparable is important for using them correctly. Let's practice with a few examples.
Great idea. How about pick up? Is it separable or inseparable?
Pick up is separable. You can say pick up the phone or pick the phone up.
Exactly. Now, what about come across?
Come across is inseparable. You can't say come the book across. It has to be come across the book.
Perfect. Listeners, try to identify if phrasal verbs you encounter are separable or inseparable. It will help you use them more naturally.
Segment 3, Common Phrasal Verbs for Daily Conversations.
Let's dive into some common phrasal verbs you can use in daily conversations. These will make your English sound more fluent and natural.
One phrasal verb I use often is hang out. It means to spend time relaxing. For example, do you want to hang out this weekend?
That's a good one. Another useful phrasal verb is bring up. It means to start talking about a topic. For instance, she brought up an interesting point during the meeting.
Yes, bring up is very common. How about figure out? It means to understand or solve something. For example, I can't figure out this math problem.
Great examples, Mike. Another one is run out of. It means to use up all of something. For instance, we ran out of milk, so I need to buy some more.
These phrasal verbs are incredibly useful. Let's give our listeners a little challenge. We'll say a sentence, and they have to identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Absolutely. Here's the first one. I need to catch up on my work. What's the phrasal verb?
And the answer is catch up. It means to do something you didn't have time to do earlier.
Great job. Keep practicing these phrasal verbs in your daily conversations, and soon they'll become second nature.
Segment 4, Phrasal Verbs in Professional Settings.
Now, let's talk about phrasal verbs commonly used in professional settings. These will help you communicate more effectively at work.
One important phrasal verb is carry out. It means to perform or complete a task. For example, we need to carry out a thorough investigation.
That's a good one. Another useful phrasal verb is come up with. It means to think of an idea or plan. For instance, she came up with a brilliant solution to the problem.
Take over is another important phrasal verb. It means to assume control or responsibility. For example, he will take over the project after Jane leaves.
Yes, and point out is also commonly used. It means to indicate or draw attention to something. For instance, I'd like to point out a few errors in the report.
These phrasal verbs can help you sound more professional and articulate in the workplace. Let's do a quick practice. I'll say a sentence, and you identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Sure thing.
We need to figure out a new marketing strategy. What's the phrasal verb?
The phrasal verb is figure out. It means to understand or solve something.
Exactly. Keep practicing these in your professional communications to enhance your fluency. Segment 5. Phrasal verbs for social media and online communication.
Let's move on to phrasal verbs commonly used in social media and online communication. These will help you navigate the digital world more effectively.
One popular phrasal verb is log in. It means to access a computer or website by entering your credentials. For example, I need to log in to my email account.
That's a great one. Another useful phrasal verb is sign up. It means to register for something. For instance, I signed up for an online course.
Scroll down is another common phrasal verb. It means to move down the screen. For example, scroll down to read more comments.
Yes, and log out means to exit a computer system or website. For instance, don't forget to log out when you're done.
These phrasal verbs are essential for online communication. Let's practice with a sentence. I'll say it, and you identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Ready.
I need to back up my files before updating my computer. What's the phrasal verb?
The phrasal verb is back up. It means to make a copy of data.
Perfect. Keep using these phrasal verbs in your online interactions to sound more fluent. Segment 6. Fun and interactive phrasal verb activities.
Now, let's make things fun and interactive. We have some activities to help you practice phrasal verbs.
Let's start with a game called Phrasal Verb Match. We'll give you a verb and a list of prepositions, adverbs. Your task is to match them to form correct phrasal verbs.
Sounds fun. Here's the first verb, turn. The options are off, on, up, and down. Match them.
The correct matches are turn off, turn on, turn up, and turn down. Great job.
Now, let's do a fill-in-the-blank activity. I'll say a sentence with a missing phrasal verb, and you have to fill in the blank. Ready?
Ready.
Can you? The lights when you leave? The options are turn off, take off, give off, and make off.
The correct answer is turn off.
Perfect. These activities are great for practicing phrasal verbs in a fun way. Keep challenging yourself with more exercises.
Segment 7. Phrasal verbs in idiomatic expressions.
Let's explore phrasal verbs used in idiomatic expressions. These add color and depth to your language.
One common idiom is hit the nail on the head. It means to be exactly right about something. For example, you really hit the nail on the head with your comment.
That's a good one. Another idiom is kick the bucket, which means to die. For instance, the old man finally kicked the bucket.
Bite the bullet is another idiom. It means to endure a painful situation bravely. For example, you'll just have to bite the bullet and get it done.
These idiomatic expressions are fun to use and understand. Let's do a quick practice. I'll say an idiom, and you identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Ready.
Let the cat out of the bag. What's the phrasal verb?
The phrasal verb is let out.
Perfect. Keep exploring idiomatic expressions to enrich your language skills.
Segment 8. Phrasal verbs for travel and directions.
Next, let's talk about phrasal verbs commonly used for travel and directions. These will be handy for your adventures.
One useful phrasal verb is check in. It means to register at a hotel or airport. For example, we need to check in at the hotel by 3 p.m.
That's a good one. Another useful phrasal verb is set off. It means to start a journey. For instance, we set off early to avoid traffic.
Pick up is another common phrasal verb. It means to collect someone or something. For example, I'll pick you up at the airport.
Yes, and get off means to leave a vehicle. For instance, we need to get off at the next stop.
These phrasal verbs are essential for travel. Let's practice with a sentence. I'll say it and you identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Ready.
We need to early to catch the flight. What's the phrasal verb?
The phrasal verb is set off.
Perfect. Keep using these phrasal verbs in your travel conversations to sound more fluent. Segment 9, Phrasal Verbs for Emotions and Reactions.
Now, let's explore phrasal verbs related to emotions and reactions. These will help you express yourself more clearly.
One important phrasal verb is calm down. It means to relax after being angry or excited. For example, you need to calm down before we can talk.
That's a good one. Another useful phrasal verb is cheer up. It means to become happier. For instance, she tried to cheer him up after the breakup.
Freak out is another common phrasal verb. It means to become very excited or scared. For example, I freaked out when I saw the spider.
Yes, and break down means to lose control of emotions. For instance, he broke down in tears when he heard the news.
These phrasal verbs are essential for expressing emotions. Let's practice with a sentence. I'll say it, and you identify the phrasal verb. Ready?
Ready.
She tried to him up after the bad news. What's the phrasal verb?
The phrasal verb is cheer up.
Perfect. Keep using these phrasal verbs to express your emotions more effectively. Segment 10, Review and Practice.
We've covered a lot of phrasal verbs today. Let's do a quick review and practice what we've learned.
Great idea. We'll say a phrasal verb and you tell us its meaning and use it in a sentence. Ready?
Ready. First one, break down.
Break down means to stop functioning or to lose control of emotions. Example, my car broke down on the way to work.
Perfect. Next one, cheer up.
Cheer up means to become happier. Example, she tried to cheer him up after the bad news.
Excellent. Keep practicing these phrasal verbs in different contexts to master them.
And don't forget to revisit this episode whenever you need a refresher. Practice makes perfect.
That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep practicing and elevating your English skills.
See you next time, everyone.